Still rabbit.
Okay, it's sent. All right, so I'm going to bring up the Excel spreadsheet. I went ahead and created one, and I'm going to explain it so everyone can know their numbers to set their goals for this upcoming year. So if you click on the residential sales 2021 production numbers template, it'll bring you to the screen. And the first one is blank. So you see this first sheet, 2021 production blank, and then the next one is blank as well. This is where you can fill in your information, or you can take the example that I placed on the third sheet and put in your numbers and your addresses and your sources and dates. So it's either way how you want to do it. But if you use the blank portion, the forms are already filled in, the drop-down boxes. So you would type in what type of property that it was, new construction, rental, single family, pre-existing, go down the list. And then what type of agent were you? Did you represent the seller? Did you represent the buyer? So if you represented the seller, you're the listing agent. If you represent the buyer, you're the selling agent. As far as client type, where you work with the buyer, the seller, the tenant, or the owner. You put the property address, the date of sale, the source, where you got it from. I know I listed quite a bit of different sources. And if you say, for instance, you had a source that I didn't have listed, I can show you how to change the type of source that you have by going to this thing called the data breakdown. But if not, you can put other in the meantime, and then you have the sold price. So this one is just. Oh,
so Dione, would you I know when I was keeping track like this, you know, I know I would go and like I would have to go find all this information with a tablet and kind of write it out first and then transfer it digitally. So like, would you recommend that they approach it that way?
Yes, definitely. There's a few ways. I did mine through Back Agent to help me let's see. Go back. And I'm just showing a tool in case someone didn't know how to look at their sales. And this is just going to HAR is one way to look at some of your numbers. But if you do new construction or off-market properties, that won't be listed. So I'll just say like my sold listings. And I like saved it and downloaded it or printed it out. I like to write it out. So I printed out this sheet with my numbers, and then I also went to Back Agent to see what I've been paid for. And then just trying to write down my numbers. I have a notebook where I keep my sales. So this will help again, but this doesn't have off-market listings, apartments, invoices. It doesn't have new construction. So this is just one way where you can find your numbers. So here in the example, I list the property type, and this is, I'm on sheet 3. I list the type of agent I was, selling agent, listing agent, the type of buyer I was working with, the property address, the date of the sale, the source if they were repeat client, marketing, networking, and then the sold price. So once you fill that in, and then I filled this out all the way to like, if you sold 53 properties, it's filled in all the way to, yes.
All right, and if you guys have, we'll be monitoring the chat. So if y'all have questions, y'all can put them in the chat. And then for my people that are in studio that have questions. So yeah, Laura, we emailed it to you. You didn't get the email? Okay. I just don't remember that form. Oh, did you send that form, Dione?
Yeah, I sent this one as well. And that folder and that link.
in that link.
Mm-hmm. So in this link, it says the business plan blueprint homework.
Did y'all get that? So here we're you can keep going, Dione, while we look at it.
Okay, and it's also in the chat. Let me know if this link isn't working.
Okay.
Is somebody trying it and let me know?
Yeah, I'm clicking on it.
I clicked on the link. It works.
It works.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it works for me too.
All right. So
Jess, can
this
you pull a link out of the chat? Go ahead, Dione. Let me mute myself.
Okay. And in this first link, I mean this sheet right here, the 2021 production example. I just went ahead and I didn't do any tallies. What I did was copy and paste. So I just highlighted everything, copied it, and I placed it on the next sheet. Let me minimize this. And I added, I believe, 3 extra tabs. 4, transaction volume without rentals, the gross commission income at 3%, and then the gross commission income with the rentals included to total up the numbers. So this amount here is the total transaction volume of what was sold in 2021 with the sold price, and it also included rentals at the $4,180,477. But I also want to know the difference with the transaction volume without the rentals included. And so what I did was just highlight this, copy it, paste it here, and then I just deleted the rentals. And then I came up with the sum. And if you're learning to do the sum, you would go to function, select sum, and then you will highlight the squares that you want to include in that sum. And then the next one is the gross commission income. I did the sum of this box, or say this, what do they call these, squares, or I can't think of the name right now, but I take 3% of I2. So if somebody needs help with the formulas, but this, if you fill it in from what using this and just copy and paste it and paste it on the blank form, then it should work for you. But if you want to calculate, your own formulas, let me know. I can help you with that if you need help with that. But it's very, I guess, simpler if you just delete what I have and put in your own numbers, and the calculations are already there. So this box automatically calculates what's 3% of this amount. So does anyone have any questions so far? So what this tallies up of the gross commission income of the sales, this will be the gross income. Everybody's quiet. I need to know if I'm explaining it right. Y'all give me feedback.
I was trying to unmute myself this whole time.
Oh.
I kept pushing it, it wasn't working. So this is, I understand what you're saying. So this is personal to the person. It's not like company-wide, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So everybody's doing their 2021 numbers to make their 2022 goals and know where their income, like say, I did it like this, broke it down so you know where your source came from. If it was a repeat client, marketing, just so you know where your strengths are for the coming year and where your weaknesses are, so you can focus on those areas as well.
Got it. Okay.
Does anyone have any questions about the calculations and how to get your numbers?
No, yes.
I know it takes. Say it one more time.
No, I just said, no, you explained it well.
And this second page doesn't have any formulas included. I just said it like if you had this, if you wanted to use the example, highlighted everything, and then copied and then pasted it on the second sheet, title, transaction volume, gross commission income, blank, then you can also do that way as well. But it's just somewhat simpler just to edit it and save it onto your computer. So then once you get your numbers, then you will go back to the components of a business plan. I'm also going to share this in a folder. This is like the Word version of it rather than the PDF. So you can just fill in the number of transaction size that you had. So what you do is go to your Excel spreadsheet, tally up how many transactions you had. Let's just say this is 18 transactions. And I'll put 18, 18. What was my transaction volume? I would get that number here, the 4,180. I mean, 4,180. I'm just doing this as an example. I know it might not be right. And then the gross commission, I think was around 124. And then it says, which months did you close your transactions? And I made a breakdown of, you count how many closes you had in January and how much you made, that gross commission income for the month of January, February, for each month, just so you know where your strong months are of 2021 were. This is also where you put, where did my business come from last year? Break this down by rough percentages by the source. So if I had 18 transactions and I went here and I put, okay, I had repeat client, how many times? 1, 2, says 2 times. So then I would put 2 out of 18 total sides. Was that 1/9? What's the percentage of 1/9? Let's just say 10%. So say 10% of my sales came from repeat clients. Then I have paid, lead, farming, sphere of influence, listing lead, family referral, vendor referral, online marketing. So you put the total number of sides that you have, and say for this example, it's 18, and then you put where each source came from, how many, based on here, farming effort, church, sphere of influence. I had 2 out of 18, so that's like another like rough estimate of 10%. You can be exact with your percentages. I'm just throwing out a rough estimate. Also, if these leads do not, these source names don't pertain to you, such as repeat client farming, you have a whole different, say it's social media. Say you say, hey, from Instagram, I got this many sales. Then I also create a blank sheet where you can put the type of source it was here. So you don't have to use both. You can use either or. And you just put what type it was. Say you had 30 transactions last year and 8 of them were social media or Instagram or Facebook. So you can put 8 out of 30 and then calculate that percentage, just so you'll have record of where your business came from last year. And this also allows you to put it by per month. So here, also did it where it ordered the sales from the month that it closed in March, April. That's why yours might not automatically be in this order, but I believe I just calculated it. Where'd it go? But yeah, we can do this one by one, or not one by one, but in small group. I don't want to, everybody's different, but I can show you how to organize it so you can quickly do your numbers, save you time. filling out these forms. So the most important is knowing your numbers to finish the form. So calculating the number of sellers, buyers, and rentals. I went ahead and separated because sometimes rentals are not included in your total numbers. So I broke it down to 2 different ways. You can include your listings, purchases, and tenants and owners, and get your total transaction volume and the gross income with the rentals included. Then you also have it where it's just the sellers and buyers, just listings and purchases, and get your total volume without the rentals and your gross income, just so you know the ratio of buyers to sellers. So you write how many buyers that you work with, close with in 2021, how many sellers, and then here's like sellers over the total number. So say I had 7 sellers and I had 18 transactions, I would do, 7 divided by 18 to get that percentage of how many sellers I was working with. And then the same thing for the buyers. 11 over 18 divided equals that percentage. So then I know my percentages of sellers and buyers of last year. I know my gross income with rentals included, without the rentals included. And then I can answer these questions. I put in this last year's performance of 18 sides and say I want to double it for 2022. So it's going to be 36 transactions or more, preferably. And then the closed transaction volume, my goals, the average sales price, say is $300,000. Gross commission income, the 124K, and say I want it to be to 250K in 2022. The percentage of the buyers, you get that number from here, and you fill that in. And then you start identifying your skills and resources to help you reach the gap that you're trying to, the gap in between your goals. And then you answer these questions. So you can't answer these questions without looking at the numbers of your past. And if you didn't have any sales last year, then we can just go by what your goal for how much you want to make. Mike, are you there?
I had a
here. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Somebody had a question?
Yeah, I had I was gonna ask that question about what you just said. If you didn't have any sales or anything last year, I had a rental, but I was gonna ask, is this also helpful? I know we can put our 2022 goals on here, but are there also tools on it that will help, like as far as putting in the information for like this year, or is it all based on 2021? Like as we're going forward this year, will we still be able to use it for this year?
Yeah, you can still use it as you get sales. You can fill it in for 2022. So you already have your numbers ready for next year when we're doing 2023's goals. But what I could do is I have another sheet that I could send to you where you tell me, you estimate how much you want to make each year.
Oh, what happened? Is that the baby?
Yeah.
That the baby
waking up.
Wreck the training. Yeah, I know babies will wreck my trainings.
All right, all right. So you have a goal. Say you want to make 150K this year in real estate. We can talk about your preferences, where you want sales to come from.
Right.
Work with buyers, sellers, renters, your preferred lead source. When you get into, are you going to pay for leads? Are you going to depend on your sphere? So are you going to farm? So then that's how we'll predict. You'll set goals. Like, hey, I want to have this many sales from networking or from this organization. You got to break it down to what you currently have. what you're currently good at or what you're currently involved in, and go from there. But there's a lot of different sources. So it's like I have a list of different ways you can get. Are you going to go target divorce attorneys? Are you going to target doctors, like people in the medical field, teachers, police officers? You just pick a couple of certain categories and make your numbers based on that. If that helps.
Okay, cool. So I'll put my email in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, if you haven't gotten the forms, well, no. If you're on here and you hadn't got the forms, then you got the link. So now you do have a form. So we don't need to email you nothing.
I think she meant for that source sheet.
Yeah, no. I was talking about, I had two different thoughts at the same time. So I got
you. Oh, okay. Any questions on how to fill out this template?
Now, what I can say about the template, Dione, and I want to say this to everybody, it's very simple. There's a lot of softwares and things that'll do all of this for you. Like they'll do it and you go to their software and log into their account and they have all these bells and whistles. And what it ends up doing is just confusing you. And then because you're confused, you don't do it.
Yeah.
It's very critical that you keep track of your business performance like this, because if you don't, you will not know how to adjust as you plan for the next year. So what Dione has created, and it wasn't easy to create this. Like I'm a spreadsheets person. Like I know how to create spreadsheets and it takes time. This right here, although it's simple, it wasn't easy to create. So definitely appreciate you, Dione, for providing this tool. And I really want you all to utilize it for those that had production in 2021. Let's use it so we can plan and have a strategy going into this new year to kill it.
Definitely. Thank you. And I mean, it did take me a couple hours to create it, but it's something I'm going to use moving forward. I've always had something similar to this, but I was like, you know what? I like it. Just all the information right in front of me, pretty simple, straight to the point, everything labeled. I'm trying to think of every other label that could come up. If there's something that didn't, like if there's something that I didn't put in this and y'all have a suggestion, please let me know and I can add it.
Okay. Good.
But yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I just like the fact that it's the simplicity of it. I like that.
Yeah, because I've seen the MREA, the Keller Williams one, different firms have their different ones. And I just took a little bit from what I've learned in the past and just try to make it a simple template, straight to the point, know your numbers for 2021 so you can focus on your goals for 2022.
Absolutely. Laura has a question.
So I've kind of been freelancing this real estate, stuff, and I have production, but it's all up and down. But through doing this over the week, my production last year was literally 2 transactions. And
yeah.
I thought I had way more than that, or at least a little more than that.
But they say numbers don't lie.
Yeah, that's why it's hard to do this, because when you really see it in paper or right there in front of me, it's like, okay, get it together. But like I've had transactions also in the past where do you recommend going back and looking at, my previous years and also consolidating all that information? Or?
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. I'm going to get Dion's feedback on this as well, but I definitely recommend that you do that, because what it's going to tell you is you want to you want to see if you can identify a pattern.
Yeah.
Where business is coming from, right? So whether it was last year, 2, 3, 4 years ago, if you're able to identify, hey, this year from this particular source, I had this kind of business and it just kind of happened organically. Imagine if I got intentional about promoting in that source, what I could pull from in 2022. So yeah, I would recommend you go back.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely go back.
Okay, so did that answer your question?
Yes.
All right, and Dione, you have any feedback about that?
No, I'm just saying definitely, go back, a couple years, or it's just how much time you have. Go back and always look at where your numbers came from, what you was doing differently. I used to do that as well. Just go back. If I went back 3 years, 4 years, where my strengths were, and just capitalize that. And also, I forgot to also, sometimes this 3% commission, some people get BTSAs, on new construction, or sometimes, properties, and that's not included in this. So don't forget to put that in there sometimes. But I wouldn't want to say, make your goals around BTSAs. And for those that don't know what BTSAs is, bonus to sell an agent. So in some deals, you may get 2%, so you get 5% commission. There are bonuses, but I wouldn't necessarily, you can calculate them, but I wouldn't necessarily calculate them as that's a given each year. I know that was a little off, but I want to.
Hey, Dione, you mentioned in your explanation, you mentioned about sides, right? So that may be a term that some of the newer agents don't know what that means. So you want to expound a little bit about what's a side?
Yes. So let's say a traditional sale, you have the buyer side and the seller side. And I forgot about that. Like, say this Sears Road, it was a lot. The buyer wasn't represented by an agent. So I actually represented both sides. So in the sale of this land, I represented both parties. So that would be 2 sides. So actually on this list, I need to have 0 Sears again, and the commission from it. Just to give an example. But say this first property here, new construction, the builder represents one side, and me as the buyer's agent represents the other. So that would count as one side. I'm sorry. One moment.
Be disturbing her. And while Dione is, taking care of the queen, what other questions? Anybody have any other questions? Did anybody sit down and I'm not gonna say anybody, because I know y'all did it. I know everybody did. So who sat down and looked at the previous year's performance and would like to share? And maybe we could do a little bit of coaching while waiting on Dione, giving some best practices and things like that as we move into the new year. Who would like to do that?
Well, I've shared.
Yes, you have.
That I did go back and I was pretty shocked. A lot at some of my clients that I did bail on me either at the closing table or prior to,
So what happened?
I had a VA last year for $250, all appliances included, and she just didn't show up to closing.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And you hadn't talked to her since?
I've talked to her. It was
too much.
Difficult. She was difficult because I guess she was just transferring from closer to Louisiana to here, and she is out here for medical reasons and stuff, but I just don't understand.
Did she give an explanation?
She just thought it was more home than what she needed.
It was too much.
She just got cold feet.
She got cold feet. She still hasn't purchased?
She thought $250 was too much. She still hasn't purchased. And I said, if you think that's too much and you want to wait till next year, you're about to be in for some reality.
Was this in 2021?
This was last June.
This was last June? So what I would do, and you're still in communication with her? All right, what I would do is... I told her I was off the contract. What I would do, I would become curious. Like, I want you all to really, curiosity is very powerful, right? So when things happen that don't make sense to you, don't be afraid to become curious and ask questions. Like, it takes me back to my 10-year-old daughter. Like, my 10-year-old daughter, if she don't know something, if she don't understand something, she gonna keep asking and probing until it makes sense, until it understands.
And so that did happen. I mean, the lender got involved, that I was involved, title was even involved. They were waiting and they gave her another day. And that's how, we were working on towards it.
Well, when I say become curious, it's sometimes people want to be understood. And if they feel like you're not feeling me, like I'm afraid, like you don't understand, like you're seeing me having cold feet, not moving forward, but you don't get it. You don't get what's going on with me right now. And sometimes reassuring somebody that I feel you, like empathy. I feel you. This probably it seems like it's daunting for you. Like, is it too much? You feel like you can't afford it. So that's what I mean by curious.
Oh yeah, it was like, a lot of that. And even after the fact, I think, following that month and whatnot, the kinds of listings that she wanted were like trailer homes. And they were like, box or this boxed home or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like,
so it was, and what it sounds like to me is that, and this happens in a lot of instances, they have a narrative or a picture that they've painted to themselves in their head, right? They've been exposed to some type of data point, and that data point has now created an internal representation in their minds of this, and now it's scared them. So what you have to do is that now you have to first figure out what is the internal representation that they have. And that's what you being curious and asking questions and probing. It'll allow you to kind of understand, like, oh, this is what's going on with you. Once you understand it, then now you can offer new data points and say, hey, this is what happened. This is what it created for you internally, but let me offer you these things. Have you considered these things? And help guide them into creating a different picture of reality. Because the reality is that if she couldn't afford it, she wouldn't have got approved for the loan.
Exactly.
Right?
She was VA, fully vetted.
Yeah, so she was fully vetted. She went through the whole process.
Yeah.
So we know that she's operating off of erroneous information or data, and it's created a disconnect. So the curiosity will help you as a professional pull it out, see it. All right, oh, okay, now I get what's going on. So now let me reframe. We call it reframing in NLP. Allow you to reframe the internal representation that she's come up with that's causing fear or anxiety or overwhelm, whatever negative emotion is coming from it. Because at the end of the day, when people begin to experience that stuff, especially when you're talking about veterans, because they've dealt with a lot of trauma, when you're dealing with those individuals, and when a person gets overwhelmed emotionally, then they start making irrational moves. So like to us, it's like, man, you're gonna lose your earnest money. And a lot of times as realtors, oh, y'all got the money back? Well, a lot of times as realtors, we try to address emotional situations with our clients using logic. That ain't gonna get it, right? Once somebody's in an emotional state and they're making decisions based off of their feelings and their emotions, no matter what evidence, logic, whatever reason you throw at them, and it's like it's got a force field around. They ain't hearing none of that. So,
well, even to that point, in August, another one, kind of just bit the dust. And this person actually, my other bust out was a client that moved from New York probably like 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. She leased through me the first time, leased a second home, and I wasn't even a part of it, but she put me down as a realtor. Mm-hmm. I do keep a relationship with her and whatnot. So she was ready to buy, and we've been talking about, getting her ready to buy. And so here we are. Her offer is accepted out of whatever many and whatnot, and it's still within 275, I think. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden she's talking to her dad in New York, and her dad just is advising her, because he's a finance advisor, that it's not a good time to buy.
Yeah. So I mean, here's the reality, Laura. It's been happening to all of us, mm-hmm. and it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And even with the amount of skill that I have, with the amount of years that I've been doing this, we can't make people do nothing. Like, so you're going to run into a situation where I can throw all the techniques, all the strategies, right, all the empathy, all the understanding, just lay it all out, and they stuck. Sometimes people just get stuck. And when that happens, You just got to kind of let them go. But what I can tell you is that through the coaching, you're going to learn some techniques and strategies and things to how to be more skilled in the area of empathy, understanding, curiosity, getting in the bubble with them. Like when they're all riled up emotionally, you got to get in that thing with them. And then once you get in it with them, you begin to understand kind of what's going on. Then they start letting their guard down and they start being more receptive of what you're trying to say to move in a different direction.
Can I ask a quick question on that?
Absolutely. Now ask it loud enough so the Zoom people can hear.
So the client that didn't show up to closing, your VA person, how long before closing did you talk to them? Had you talked to them?
Every day, probably.
You talked to them that morning as well?
Yeah,
talked
usually.
To them before, that whole entire week before closing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, by the time you get to that part, you talking to them multiple times a day.
But
like,
I just
leading up to
imagine
it.
them not showing up.
I've seen worse.
Yeah. Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I've seen worse. I've seen people do worse things.
Wow.
All right. So thank you for sharing, Laura. All right, who else has some things that they want to share? Because I really want, if you haven't done it now, right? And like Dione said earlier, if you don't have any production from last year, but you've been in it long enough and you can compile all your production and do that. But if you're brand new and you haven't done any production, then you still need to do the goal setting part of it. You need to have a vision of what you're trying to achieve versus just going at it haphazardly. And everything that we're talking about here today, we're going to utilize in our coaching sessions. So these tools, these techniques and things like that. Dione, you back?
Back.
I held it down for you.
Thank you. So for those that don't have numbers from last year, as far as where your sales came from, just go by kind of like what you want to make for this year. So let me go back and resume my share. So this is an example goal projector results. So you fill this out just the same way. Estimated bills for this year. Put your bills, your desired savings, your additional real estate expenses. Now, this is just an example. These may not be, yours. Funds for goal number 1, number 2, and number 3. And so the total business financial goals is at $212,500. So this is how much this person wanted to make for the year. And then they took the average sales price of their market. If I was looking at this number today, where is it at? MLS. Look at how high the single average sales price home has gone in the Houston area.
16%.
370. Yeah, from last year, December last year.
Damn.
But your average sales price may not be what the our HAR system sales price is. So you can take an average number of. So I think I took an average number of this. Where's my number? All right, so this is the numbers without the rentals. Function, average. I'm gonna highlight all that. So the average sales price of what I sold. Now this is an example of mine. It's not all my sales, but it's an example. So 320 is the average sales price. So if I was doing the goal projector sheet, I would say the average sales price of my market. So I'll put 320. Average commission percentage side would be 3%. And then, whatever transaction split that you're on, if you're on a 70-30, 50-50, any 80-20, whatever your commission split is, you put that amount there, and so you would times that times the average commission income. So you took 9,000, 70% of 9,000 would be the 6,300, and then to get that total number, so her business financial goal is 212,500. She would need a total of 34 transactions to reach her goal, her business financial goals. These are the average number of appointments that she's needed to result in one closed transaction. So her numbers, and so once you start meeting with client buyers or sellers, you're listening point, your buyer consultation, And then you start having deals and you start knowing how many people you need to meet with to result in a closed transaction. A closed transaction is either you've represented the seller and the property has sold, or you represent the buyer and that buyer has purchased that property. It is closed. It's not under contract, it's not pending. You've actually closed that client. So some people like, hey, I have 4 buyer consultations a week. And out of those 4, I'm pretty sure in the next, 90 days, or, once you do start making your sales, like, hey, out of every 4 buyer consultations that I have 1 closing. So you have 25%. So so this one is kind of like high. I mean, this is pretty low, 1 close out of 20 appointments, but it varies. Some people may go to listing appointments.
Well, let me jump in. Let me jump in there, Dione.
Okay.
Because a couple of things. Number one, as you to make it easier for you to compile this information, for you to analyze it, that's where the time block in the calendar comes in. Because say if I wanted to look at, say we go to the end of March for 2022, and I just wanted to look at the first 3 months. And I encourage you all, especially you all that didn't have production last year, and we're just starting on getting organized. Make it a habit now, the things that we're talking about putting in place, that you're going to come back at the end of March, and then you're going to look at your first 3 months of 2022, and you're going to compile this information for your quarter, right? So you can get a snapshot. The easiest way to keep track of how many appointments that you went on for that quarter is to use a calendar. Because all you'll have to do then at that point is say April 1st, when you start looking at these numbers, just go back to your calendar and look at your calendar and see who all was on there for that quarter. And then that'll let you know how many appointments that you had to go through, because you'll also know how many buyer rep agreements that you have as well. So by being able to know how many current buyer rep agreements you have, and being able to look at your calendar to see who all did you meet with for that quarter, that's how you'll be able to come up with these numbers, these conversion numbers. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, it's good to know these numbers, because if you're meeting with a lot of people, but they're not becoming clients, then that means there's some need for improvement as it relates to your sales presentation. There's some need for improvement as it relates from going from the conversation with the client, even from the ability to meet with the client, but not walking away from that consultation with a signed agreement. Then it's something going on with your sales presentation that we need to tweak, to fix. That's another reason why these numbers are important. So you can see, again, the adjustments and where the adjustment needs to take place. You don't have a problem generating the lead. We got leads coming in, right? You don't have an issue as it relates to your appointment setting ability, because you're getting people to agree to meet with you. But the issue now is when they meet with you, you're not getting them to hire you. All right, let's look at that. Let's see what we can do to increase that. So I just wanted to jump in there and share that, Dione.
Okay. Yeah, and do we have say a weekly board where they have goals, like say, hey, I'm supposed to do this many appointments this week? No, like a template. They can always go back.
So
if not, I can create one.
So where I start with them, Dione, is I start with touches, because I feel like it all starts with being intentional about making as many people aware as possible that you do real estate, right? Mm-hmm. And then what we'll do is we'll go from measuring how many touches. So if we say, all right, my goal is to do 100 touches this week. We build that habit. We get into the pattern of, all right, we've done 100 touches. All right, so now how many leads are we pulling out of those touches? That one activity, how many leads am I pulling out? All right. Mm-hmm. So now let's start keeping track of the amount of leads that I'm pulling out, say on a weekly or a monthly basis. We'll just say monthly basis. So last month, if I do 100 touches a week, that means I did 400 touches last month. And then out of that month, I got 10 leads. All right. So now out of those 10 leads, how many appointments did I go on last month? All right. I went on 2 appointments. All right. Of those 2 appointments, how many people became clients? All right. 1 person became a client. So I start them with the touches, because before you start measuring stuff and spending a lot of time and energy on capturing data and measuring things, I need to make sure you got the right habits in place. You need to be talking to people, working this business, meeting people, and exposing. And once I see that we got momentum in that, all right, now let's start talking about tracking so we can see what our conversion numbers are looking like and how we can make adjustments. So that's how I approach it, Dione.
Okay. Touches to leads, leads to appointments, appointments to close transactions.
Okay. Well, no, appointments to clients, clients to close transactions. Because you know, a lot of we can lose a lot of money going from client to contract, and we can lose a lot of money from contract to close. There's still many gaps in between that can stop you from getting paid. So yeah, so it's touches to leads, leads to appointment, appointment to client, client to contract, contract to close. That's good.
All right, so we should make up some. I mean, if you already have a template that states. I'm very visual, so I want to see that. You know, these are the touches.
You want to see that, Dione? Dione said, I want to see it. All right, well, let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. And we're in the process of getting this updated on the success. We need to switch out the Realtor Success Funnel from the one that we have in Thinkific. We have the older version in Thinkific, but I redesigned it. So let me pull up the redesigned version because I have the concept already created. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Yeah.
And Mike, I'm gonna need to get going because I want to be up there for orientation. Okay. So okay. I have.
All right. Well, was this everything that you had to share?
Yeah. I think I covered how that template is going to answer those questions for that business plan. So,
okay. Well,
anybody have?
Well, hold on before you leave, so you can see this.
Okay.
All right. Let me show it to you real quick. Go to my website, and then I'll let you go. Just so you can see it, and then when I kind of go through it with everybody, you know, you don't necessarily have to hear the explanation. Yeah. All right, y'all see my screen? All right, y'all see it. Okay, client tools. I'm not logged in. Let me log in. All right, so this is it right here, Dione. And so it goes from, and this is, and the other thing, I don't know, Dione, if you had a chance to look at the Success in Real Estate Machine at bdref.thinkific.com.
I need to.
All right, because when you go in there, you'll see that software is broke down according, it was designed according to this concept right here. So skill set 1 is about generating leads. Skill set 2 is about making contact with the leads. Skill set 3 is about successfully scheduling the consultation. 4 is leaving the consultation with a client. 5 is getting the client under contract. 6 is getting the contract closed. So from a training standpoint, in training the transaction, this is what I use.
Okay.
That makes sense? All right, and then you and I can talk more about it as well. Okay. Build around it. All right, so y'all say thank you to Dione for all this hard work that she done.
Thank you, Dione.
Very welcome.
All right, so
all right.
Before I let y'all go, how many people have seen this or are familiar with this?
Well, you have it on your group meet.
I do.
I've seen it.
I do. Shay's seen it, yes.
I read it and I said, well, I've skipped a few skill sets. So whatever.
Absolutely. So, you know, it took me a long time to put this together. I was having a hard time. I wasn't understanding. I was having a hard time explaining to new agents what to do. You know, I had been in it for years. So for me, understanding how to go from lead to close, it was easy. But in me trying to articulate it to somebody that has no frame of reference for this business and in such a way to where they don't lose confidence in the process, because a lot of people would lose confidence in the process, lose hope, lose faith, get out of it before they got things going. So I said, I got to figure out a way where I can better explain it, like visually, and it'll help me better formalize my explanation for people as we walk through these steps. So that's how I came up with these 7 steps, right? And, you know, the first skill set, the first thing that people have to get skilled at in this business is being able to attract business, generating leads, right? You know, I was talking to one of my agents. I'm not gonna put on blast. I ain't gonna say, I did say it was a her though, but I ain't gonna put on blast. But she made a statement of, you know, I can't wait to get more leads. And I'm like, we don't wait. We don't wait on leads. You gotta go get leads. You gotta go get them, right? So, and that's why I was telling Dione, we start with the touches, because that don't cost you nothing, right? It's the easiest thing to do in real estate is to go tap somebody on the shoulder and say, who do you know looking to buy a house, sell a house, or invest in real estate? It don't take no knowledge of social media, digital marketing. You ain't got to know Facebook ads. You ain't got to pay Zillow. It's the simplest form of attracting business is going out there and identifying as many people in as many places that you can make them aware of the fact that you do real estate. So we start with the touches, but touches is not the only way to generate leads. There are thousands of ways. Well, here's the thing. Really, if you just sit down and think about it, you'll come up with a list of at least 10 ways that you could generate leads, right? I mean, most of us don't even start with our cell phone. There are people in our cell phone that if I ask you the question, how effective do you think that you're doing on reminding these people on a consistent basis that you do real estate? Most people will probably get themselves a 1 or a 2 because you ain't thought about it. You ain't been intentional about it. Well, that's where everybody should start when it comes to generating leads. Start with putting some type of system or process in place where at least once a month, you go through everybody in your phone and saving your phone. They've been reminded that you do real estate. Just start with the phone. And just that one technique right there, will probably bring you at least another 4 to 5 closed transactions a year. If you got into a situation to where everybody in your phone was reminded at least once a month, that's 12 times a year, it's at least gonna pull 4 to 5 closed transactions, whether it's from them or whether it's from them referring somebody to you. At least 4 transactions. And most realtors don't have anything like that in place, right?
So,
absolutely.
So you said if you
5, 6,
in your phone, did you say once a
5,
month?
6, 9, 8, 9.
What was once a month?
I said once a month, but really you need to be trying to do it. You really need to try to get in a situation where you're hitting people you're touching them at least 3 times a month.
3 times a month.
And that could be a phone call, text message, that could be connecting with them on social media. They seeing you, and that's why social media can be powerful.
Right.
Because if you drive people to your social media and you're active on your social media, well, now if they're looking at you on social media, they're seeing you. Now they're seeing you more than 3 times a month. They may be seeing you every day or 3 times a week. They may be seeing you because all of it, you're reminding them. Think of yourself as a commercial. Think of the power of commercials, right? I looked at this Jimmy John's commercial because I was watching, I think it was the World Series. And man, I don't know, Jimmy John's must have bought all of the ad space during the World Series. But they kept showing this one commercial that had this like Philly cheesesteak, whatever commercial. And I just kept seeing it. I've never been to Jimmy John's, ever. Never been to Jimmy John's. I kept seeing it. And I knew what was happening to me. Because I'm like, man, that thing look good. Man, I think. So I went from just seeing this commercial to actually literally try to find a Jimmy John's, right? And then started getting frustrated that I couldn't find one, right? And Jess, remember, because Jess even helped me. Jess was like, she did some research to try to find me a Jimmy John's. That was just because of the frequency of that one commercial. So think of yourself like that. Try to put yourself in front of your people as much as possible. So when any real estate situation comes up, whether it's with them or they run into a conversation with somebody, just an arbitrary conversation, or they overhear somebody talking about real estate, they can't help but think of you. That's the first step. So building strategy around the generating leads aspect of things, that's where we start first. Because if you don't have no leads, then you can't do none of the other 6 skill sets. You ain't got no leads, you ain't got nobody to make contact with, right? If you ain't got nobody to make contact with, you ain't got no consultations that you can be setting. If you ain't got no consultations, then you ain't got no clients that's coming in, right? If you ain't got no clients, you ain't got nobody to put on the contract. And if you ain't got nobody to put on the contract, you ain't got no closings happening. And if you ain't got no closings happening, you ain't got no money. So it's got to start. It's got to start with the attracting business. You got to get to the point to where you learn and that you're proficient and you are intentional and consistent about attracting business. So when it comes to the 2022 goal setting and planning that you're doing, right? If you haven't done any business last year or you haven't done the amount of business that you want to do, it starts with what are the things that I'm going to add to my lead generation system and my lead generation process, right? It all starts with leads. The more leads you generate, the more money that you make. Because we can work through the rest of this stuff. When you're bringing in a whole bunch of leads, you can afford to make mistakes with clients because they're replaced. They're coming in on a consistent basis. So while you're learning how to make, do a better job of follow-up, or do a better job of when you have them on the phone, convincing them to agree to meet with you, or do a better job of when they're meeting with you, hire you. Like when you're learning how to get better at that, you're gonna make some mistakes, right? You're gonna crack some eggs. You're gonna miss out. You're gonna drop the ball. Like it's inevitable. You're gonna have some situations. But if you constantly have leads coming in, then you can afford for that to happen. The problem is that a lot of realtors are not intentional about generating leads or enough leads. So when they do have that person come in, they do get that person on the phone, and then you drop the ball. All right, now it becomes critical because I don't have anybody to replace it, right? But when you got a bunch of leads coming in, hey, you can make money. That was one of the, that was, and I'm speaking from a standpoint of experiencing that. I got to the point to where I was generating close to 200 to 300 leads a month is what I was generating in everything that I was doing, right? Now, here's the reality though. There were some gaps. Like even that you see on this diagram, it's a reason that these circles are here because there are gaps. And if you don't plug them gaps, the business is going to fall out of the funnel, right? And notice how the further you go down the funnel, the larger the gaps get. Right? So like Laura experienced it. She went through this whole process. She generated the lead, made the contact, had the consultation, agreed with them, got the client, got them under contract, and boom. And I don't want any of y'all to experience it. You're probably going to experience it. Laura feel me because it didn't happen to me at the closing table too. When you go through all of that, and that bad boy fall out at the closing table, man, it's like in your gut, this feeling Because guess what? You can't get none of that time, none of the time, none of the investment, none of the energy. You can't get none of that back. It's disheartening, like it's devastating. So, right, you start second guessing yourself, lack of confidence. So all of that happens. But guess what? It's happened to all of us, right? It's happened to all of us. It's going to happen, period. So because it's so many moving pieces as it relates to this business that it's inevitable. So it's not that you're incompetent. I mean, you're going to feel that way. You're going to feel like this ain't the business for you. You're going to feel all of that, but don't listen to none of that. Because I'm telling you, I'm very successful in this business, and I made a whole lot of mistakes. There's a quote, and I want to say it may have come from Michael Jordan. And he says, the difference between failures I think he says, successful people typically fail more than failures, right? And when you think about it, because a person that's successful, that's has it in their mind that they're not going to give up no matter what. And they keep going. I mean, every time they run into that wall, they keep going. Well, yeah, they're going to have more circumstances, more opportunities to fail, more circumstances, more situations versus the person that hits that roadblock and stops. You just did it once.
Right.
Hey, I'm 5, 10, 15 in this thing because I kept moving. So we don't care about, and that's why I said now, at Brooks and Davis, we don't have failure, only feedback. When you run into a situation, if that thing busts out that at the table, it wasn't a failure. It's feedback. Let's learn from it and let's make the adjustment so we can do an even better job of preventing it. Some things are out of your control. It's gonna happen, right? But everything that's within our control, we want to make sure that we can control it. So that's what those gaps are about. But the lead generation piece is key. But now once you get to the point to where you become proficient in generating leads, but the income is still not lining up the way you want it to be, then we start looking at some of these other areas. All right, well, you got the lead. When you make contact with them, are they agreeing with you? Are they agreeing to meet with you? Or is it just a one and done? You're on the phone with them one time and then they gone, right? Because that could be a gap. You could bring in 40 leads, but if you're only having two appointments out of 40, something going on. And it ain't the lead. Some people be like, well, that's a bad lead. There ain't no such thing. Ain't no such thing as a bad lead. Ain't no such thing as a bad lead. So, there's some challenge there. All right, but maybe you got them on the phone and you're getting them to agree to meet with you, right? But maybe they're not showing up to the meeting, right? They say they're gonna meet with you, but when it comes time to meet, they cancel or they don't show up. All right, well, that's an opportunity for us to explore and see, do we need to have something in place to send out reminders, right? Is it that when I'm on the phone with them, maybe I shouldn't take that initial yes. Like maybe I should get them to say yes, maybe 2 or 3 more times prior to getting off the phone with them, right? So if you're going to lie to me, you really going to lie to me, right? You said it 3 times, you was coming, 4 times, you was coming. Well, maybe that's something that we have to do over the phone. Or maybe you get them face-to-face with you. And here's the reality. Skill set 1, 2, and 3 are typically the harder skill sets, right? Because for most people, if you get in the room with them, most realtors are full of personality. If you can get the people in the room with them, you can build rapport with them, and you got a strong chance that they're gonna move forward with you, especially working with a buyer. Now, a seller, you got to be a little bit more intentional about how you deliver and how you approach to get them, because they're paying, right? And they see that 6%, they see that as a huge number in their profit. But again, we can get around it. We're constantly doing it. But if they're not hiring you, then we know that there's some adjustments that we need to make with our sales presentation and how we're presenting, what kind of energy that we're putting out there. So we'll know that. But now, if you're getting people on, you're having consultations and you're getting them to hire you, and literally, every single one of these stages I've been at, and so I've been at the stage where I had a bunch of clients, but they wasn't closing, right? Can you imagine having a bunch of like people that have signed agreement with you and hired you, but you're not getting them closed. You're not making no money, right? That's a strange place to be, but I've been there. And I had to sit down and I had to take a look at my process. What was my processes of serving? Once I got a client, how did I serve them, right? What kind of customer service or customer experience was I providing to the people? And what was preventing it from being successful? Again, gaps, right? There were gaps in the process that had to be filled. And then you run into a situation where you got people under contract and they're not closing. I've been at that stage too, right? You got 10 contracts on the board and only one of them closed. Well, what's going on? You got gaps. There are gaps in place. So this is the Realtor Success Funnel. And from a training standpoint, this is what we built, how we train and how we develop agents. And when it comes to your coaching, a lot of what we put in place, as well as working with your mentors, is built around this concept right here. All right, so I felt like that would be good to share from a planning standpoint. What other questions do we have? All right, so we're going to use this as an opportunity to deal with questions from a formal presentation standpoint. We've kind of given you guys that. Now is an opportunity for us to talk one-on-one. Who got one-on-one situations that you guys want to hash out? This is a great opportunity because not only can you hear from me, you can hear from your peers that are on here as well. So who has something that they want to talk about as to their business and moving forward in 2022? Maybe if it's even an idea.
So I just have so I don't have my license yet. So I don't actually go up to like clients, like I don't meet up with clients yet or anything. But I've wondered because in my personal experience, I was trying to buy a house with my husband, and at what point do you sign a contract to, hire an agent, or would someone like what would be a step to take? Because I pointed out a house and we actually went to go see it, but then this realtor never like followed up with us or never tried to because we went through one lender and we were pre-approved for a certain amount, and then I don't remember what happened. Like we got pre-approved for an amount. We told him that we got pre-approved. We showed him the letter that we got pre-approved, and then that was kind of it. And then next thing you know, the house was under contract. Wow. And I'm just like, oh, okay. How is this supposed to go? So, and of course, I'm not a realtor yet. So I'm just trying to understand what happened.
No, that's a great question, Lucy, and I'm glad that you shared that with us. Unfortunate, that's common. Like it's common in our business. It's so unfortunate about it. And I think a lot of it has to do with, number one, realtors aren't being trained properly. And number two, the ones that have been trained properly are just disorganized. So in your particular situation, you came in as a lead, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They made contact with you, okay? Did he ever do a buyer's consultation with you? Like sit down, go through, explain to you the process, what to expect, get you to understand some of the terms. Like, did any of that happen?
No.
So
he just showed the house.
He just showed the house, right? So he went from making contact to treating you as if you was his client. Now, you had made no commitment to him and he had made no commitment to you. So now, if as a real estate professional, he'll show anybody a house, what services he's doing for his buyer, for his client. Like if his client hires him, how is he going to treat his client different than he treats customers? Because in essence, Lucy, you're a customer because you haven't signed anything with him.
Yeah.
Right? So what he should have did was after he made contact with you over the phone, he should have asked you if you were working with a realtor. Then he should have asked you, would you like to work with a realtor? And if you'd have told him, yes, I would like to work with a realtor, then I say, well, look, let's come in, let's meet, right? This is one house, but I can expose you to the entire Houston market, right? And there more than likely is something out there that you may like better than this. So let's sit down and talk about the basics and the fundamentals of the process that you're about to go into. And then at that meeting, we would have been able to talk about your pre-approvals. We would have been able to talk about your wants, your needs, your desires, educate you on what to expect. So after that meeting is done, and at that meeting, you would have signed the agreement, hiring that person. So by the time that meeting is done, the agent is clear on what you want, what you need, and you're clear on what you're about to, on what you should expect and what the next steps are. So that's what should have happened. But because that didn't happen, because if that would have happened, can you imagine where you would be right now? More than likely, you would be in a house that you have purchased. You would be in it, and he would have gotten a commission if that had happened. But since that didn't happen, because he went from contact to treating you like a client, you ended up not getting what you wanted, and he ended up not getting what he wanted. Boom. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, because you're in a room full of realtors, you still trying to buy a house?
Right.
I actually don't have the deposit money anymore. I had 10,000. We were trying to get a house to work on because we do remodeling.
Well,
yeah, we were.
Here's the thing.
For a pretty rundown house, so like it would have been really easy to sell us a house at that time because we didn't even care how bad it was. We wanted to work on it. So yeah.
So here's the thing though, Lucia. There are programs out here that can assist you. Like if your credit's not a problem, right? If you have a job, then as it relates to the down payment, there are options, right? I tell people, man, if you got $2 or $3 grand, we can get you in a house, right? You don't need $10, $15, $20,000 to get in no house. There are plenty of programs out there that can get you in a house and handle down payment. So if you still want to buy a house, Lucia, then you need to get on the phone with a professional. You can start by calling. You call me first, so I'm not wasting nobody's time, right? I have a conversation with you. We'll go into detail about what you have, and then from there, I can get you connected to somebody. I'm in a stage right now in my business where I'm tired of. I'm tired of people giving up. Right? There's a lot of people that give up on the dream of home ownership, and again, it's because the number one, there are agents out there that's not doing it right. They haven't been trained right. And number two, there's so much information as a consumer, Lucia, that you just don't have access to. You're not in the meetings that we're in. You're not talking to the people, the lenders that we're talking to. You're not talking to or getting access to the magazines and the workshops. And so you're not getting access to this information that we're getting access to that's having you feel a certain way about being able to purchase a home. So, yeah. All right. So just start with a phone call. Let's get on the phone. Let's talk through it and let's just see.
Is there a program? I saw something about a program for like people that get a 1099. I have a business in insurance, but it's fairly small because I'm still going to classes for the real estate. And I actually have my certificate for real estate already, but I decided to get my associates in real estate because I felt like, like I needed to know more about real estate. So I stayed in school and I'm not working that much, but I do insurance for houses if anybody's interested.
So you do homeowners insurance?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What now what's preventing you from getting your real estate license?
I'm scared.
Oh,
I'm scared. I feel like
not fear.
I feel like I'm gonna fail the test and maybe I don't know enough. So I mean that's why I continued with my classes and stuff.
Well, I can get you past that fear in like 10 minutes. So make sure you call me.
Yeah.
I can get you past all of that. 10 minutes and have you scheduling the exam.
Okay. Well, is there a program for like a 1099 form though?
Yeah, they do.
Because
Yeah,
my husband.
Yeah, lenders have programs that do that.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's so much out there, Lucia, that you have no clue. So we'll be able to get you in a house. It's just, talking to the right person. You just ain't talking to the right person yet. But the great is you in the right ecosystem. You with the right family. So we're gonna take care of you.
All righty.
All right.
I'll give you a call after I talk to my husband about it.
Okay, good. Matter of fact, both of y'all call me. Have him on the phone too.
Okay. Yeah.
Get the same information you get. You know, a lot of time and now, okay, so let me take that right there, Lucia.
Mm-hmm.
My agents. If you're talking to somebody and they say they're married, or if they say, you know, I need to talk to my spouse about it, say, you know what, let's talk together. You always want everybody to get the same information, right? You don't want it to be relayed. Like, you don't want to say one thing to the spouse and then have the spouse go back to the other spouse. Because guess what's going to happen? It's going to get lost in translation. So you want both of them there together so they can all hear the same information. It'll increase the chances that everybody is on the same page. All right. So that was my one tidbit for that.
Okay.
So tell your husband. So when you go back to him, Licia, say, yeah, I talked to my broker. He wants to talk to us, says there's a chance that we can still purchase a home. He wants to have a conversation. Let's do a 3-way call. Say it like that.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty. Do I have your personal number or like the office number?
You should have my personal number, but if not, Lucy, I can give it to you. Matter of fact, you got my text message today?
Yeah.
A group text.
Yeah, I got it.
All right, that was from my personal number.
Okay.
But cool. I can give it to you if you just.
I got it. It's the one ending at 8370.
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
All right, cool. All right. Who else? What we got? I'm on fire today.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Are we asking questions about anything?
Anything.
Okay, I have a question.
All right, what's your question?
How do you work with investors?
How do I work with them?
Well, I have an investor approaching me.
Okay.
That actually know. And they've already given me a list of what they're looking for. So okay. I just need to know how to run.
All right. So here's the thing about investors. Investors don't want to make a commitment to you.
Well, this one does.
Oh, he's willing to hire you?
Yeah.
Well, if he's willing to hire you, then I would handle him just like I would handle a regular buyer.
Okay.
Bring him in for the consultation, get an idea of what his needs are, you know, from a financing standpoint, how is he going to pay for it? Is he going to get a loan? Is he? So I would just, he's going to pay cash. We'll find out how much cash he got. Right?
Yeah. He wanted it to be a long-term process.
Well, let's start with one.
Okay.
Right? Right. We don't want to, let's not be too ambiguous. We're going to start with one.
So how do I find the properties that he's interested in? Because he's interested in properties that are off market. And I know somebody sent me like a Z buyer and a foreclosure list.
So, okay. And you guys are going to hear that a lot. Investors, they want off market properties. Now somebody answer this question. Why do they want off-market properties? Why does it matter to them?
Because you have that direct relationship with the person when you're leasing that house. Or
they can negotiate the sale price.
Close. All right. Geraldine said they can negotiate. Who else? Who thinks that why it's important to investors to have off-market properties?
And they think they're getting it first.
Okay. No competition. Right? Off-market properties because they don't want competition, right? Because what happens when you have competition?
Once you put it on the market, then you have other people bidding for it.
Right, but if I'm interested in purchasing something and it's just me, if I'm the only game at the table, versus if it's me and other people, right. I'm gonna have to compete and I may end up paying more for it. So that's why investors want off-market properties. Here's the reality about off-market properties. At this point, the consumer base knows they need to get on HAR. The only time that a person would not get on HAR if they got to sell fast, right? That means there's an emergency happening. There's a situation happening. They don't have time to meet with an agent. They don't have time for that agent to come out there and take pictures and put it on the market. They need the cash right now. and they're willing to do whatever they need to do to buy, right? So that's the circumstance. That's the circumstance that you're going to get somebody that's wanting to sell it off market.
And is there something I can do to get those people?
To get those people, what happens when people get in those situations? The person that's been touching them for the last 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, consistently mailing, calling, mailing, calling, mailing. When the situation hit the fan, boom, I need help. They can quickly get that person's information and they can call and say, this is what the problem is. So that right there is a process that you got to start. Like you started today, you're probably not going to get that opportunity to realize itself. And then you got to think about the messaging that you're sending to that person, right? So if the messaging that you're sending to them is that we can help. If you ever run into a problem, we can assist you. You know, so your marketing message is important as well, because a person that runs into a problem, they don't associate just a regular realtor to be able to help them, right? This is what they'll say. We need one of them we buy ugly houses people.
Oh, right.
That's why that we buy ugly houses, we houses for cash, like they're going to respond to one of those signs. They're not going to respond to your realtor sign. So if you want to, now it's a good process to be in, because when you work with investors, they have cash, they can close fast. You can get paid fast, right? But there's going to be a lot of work that you got to put in on the front end to attract those kind of properties, right? So did I answer your question?
Right. Yeah.
So,
but if it takes you said 6 months? I mean,
we don't know how long it's going to take, because it's about when the person has the problem. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, and a lot of times here are the major ones, right? Divorce, like it's life situations, divorce, probate, right? So somebody passed away, divorce. Okay. What else? Okay. So divorce, somebody can't, foreclosure, like they can't pay, they lost a job, they can't pay their mortgage. So it's them kind of situations. And who knows when them situations gonna show up. But if you put that messaging out there on a consistent basis, so when those situations do show up, boom, you're now viewed as a solution to help them. And then, like Laura said, you build relationships with probate attorneys, build relationships with family attorneys, the people that handle divorces, right? Build relationships with, if you can, people that work in banks or asset managers. You know, another good relationship to build is barbers and hair salon people, because when we and nail people, because when we go talk to them people, what we be doing? Telling our business, right? We tell our business. So relationships with barbers, relationships with hair salon that talk to their people, you'll find out. So that's how that works, right? So now you got one or two things that you can do. You can go out there and put yourself in place from a marketing and a strategy standpoint to where you can attract those kind of properties. Or if a person comes to you on off market, you really ain't got access to off market. You see what I'm saying? Because you got to create that off market. My pleasure. That was good, Laverne. Good question.
Well, now I just got to figure out, because this person sent me an email of what they're looking for, and they want something like now. And I'm like, I don't have nothing like right now that's off market.
Hey, you can only do what you can do. But again, since it's a long-term approach anyway, then you start putting your stuff in place to attract them somebody, right? You got to attract somebody that falls within that criteria. And then when you present it, now guess what? If they're like most investors, they all looking for the same thing. So if you attract somebody and you put it in front of your guy and your guy don't want it, it's plenty of people out there that's gonna want it.
Yeah.
Right. Look at it. Yeah, it's plenty of people that's gonna want it. So the hard part is finding the opportunity. All right. What else? All right, so look, y'all that's coming to orientation, y'all should be on y'all way already. I see some people on here that I know coming to orientation. And they still in front of their desks. I look at Geraldine. She's like, I know, let me log off. Let me turn my camera off. You know, he ain't looking at me. All right. So if we don't have anything else, that's all I have. Any other questions? Again, got about 10 minutes before we have to shut it down. Any other questions, situations, scenarios y'all want to talk about? No?
Yes, I think we're good.
We're good? All right, good. Look, Laverne, you had something?